Namaste, listeners. This is Workman David. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and you're listening to Long Walk Talks Lost. I'm joined today by my other two workmen.
Robert Goodspeed.
Cara, Workman.
Cara, Workwoman.
Workwoman, yes.
Cara, Redneck Man.
Yeah, redneck.
Beautiful. We are continuing our Lost 20-year retrospective with a wrap-up of Season 3. We finished it earlier this week, and we're all appropriately sad. We released our season finale episode on Friday the 13th, which is fantastic. This episode is dropping on Wednesday like normal because our weeks are about to get weird. So we are going to kick things off like we did with our previous wrap-up episodes for Season 1 and 2 by talking about what worked, what didn't, the highs and lows, and what we're looking forward to in Season 4. And also, related to the last episode, a very special characters get tracked. So we're going to start off with what worked. And Robert, do you want to start off with this one?
Sure. Just noting generally, one thing that I think Season 3 did really well that Season 2 kind of struggled with is folding in new regular characters. Season 2 introduced a lot of new characters in the tail section, and while some of them, stuck around, were very memorable, all of them are gone except for Bernard by the 5th episode of Season 3. They always felt like outsiders. It never just felt like, oh yeah, there's Ana Lucia in the background, or even in the case of Libby, who really did seem like she clicked, she had to die for tragic reasons. So it's to this season's credit that they take an entirely new character in the case of Juliet and two popular recurring characters in the case of Ben and Desmond and immediately just make them feel like part of the island tapestry, that the way they fit in to the story, the way other characters interact with them, they're energizing in all of their scenes. They play well with everybody they're given to. So it just feels like them doing something good to add flavor to a show that was coming into its third season, and they manage really well. Overall, just this is the season that the show realized that it had to step away from a pattern that had been kind of established in Season 1 and 2 of, reveals and character flashbacks, and then just a drip, drip, drip of every mystery being answered by more mystery, and just the realization that, okay, we've got to change, we've got to do something different as we move forward. And to the point that the season finale very much blows up the status quo that the show had and makes it clear we're not going into familiar territory with Season 4. To the point that I'd even say they actually kind of wrap up most of what they'd introduced in the first 3 seasons. Like, all of the big questions of the flashbacks have been answered. How did Jack get paralyzed? What crime did Kate commit? What happened to the man who caused Sawyer's parents to die? That it just feels like, okay, the stuff that's happened before will matter, but we're going into new territory and teasing what that's going to look like. And while we'll have a lot to say about the show's love quadrangle, the non-triangle love stories also worked really well. Just Jen and Son continue to be heartbreaking. Charlie and Claire get a lot of really sweet moments, and Desmond Penny just kind of cements itself as just the defining, time-bending, alternate reality spanning love story that is just going to get better and better as the show goes on.
Very well said. I agree with all of that. I also want to put in there that for me, one of the biggest things that works is the reveal at the end of the season, the flash forward, the fact that people get off the island. We spent a lot of time talking about what people remember about this show, and that is high among them, especially for this season as a whole. Also, as tragic as it was, Charlie's death and the build-up to it, and just overall his character redemption after we saw him kick heroin and become more responsible and step up in Season 1, only to get pulled back in Season 2 and kind of derailed. To see him bounce back just to die is tragic, but is very well done, I felt. And it also goes a long way towards raising the stakes of the show, which is something they've done incrementally up until this point, and now all of a sudden they're the biggest they've been so far. It's also just really, really well done plotting for a show that's in its third season. I loved the expansion on the backstory of the Others versus the Dharma Initiative and how we finally get some concrete answers about how that works. Concrete, quote unquote. They play fast and loose with those rules. And then when you talk about what works with this season, you'd be remiss if you didn't mention Juliet. I love her. Elizabeth Mitchell is great. She's the best of the new additions to the show, in my opinion. Cara, what worked for you?
So for me, a lot of it was the character developments, or like the continuation, learning more about them, and not just stupid shit like Jack's tattoos. But I feel like we got a lot more into their lives. Not that anybody cares about Kate, but like Ben and Sawyer. Also, one thing I really liked was Desmond and his psychic flashes. Because I don't think they were. They could have turned out really cheesy, and they didn't. To me, and Charlie, that you just can't say enough about it. I remember it was just one of the most devastating things for me, probably besides the series finale.
Well, why don't we, as we move on into what didn't work, Cara, go ahead and take this one as well and kick us off.
Yeah, so for me, it was the pointless episodes, like Stranger in a Strange Land. It was just stupid, and what's coming, the Nikki and Paolo episode. Freaking pointless.
I'm gonna have to go on record as disagreeing there because I'm still a defender of expose.
And also razzle dazzle.
Oh God!
Come on!
If we didn't have expose, Billy D. Williams would not have a page on Lostopedia, and who wants to live in that world?
Exactly.
I guess I do.
And also, who can forget Nikki bouncing boobily along the beach?
Oh, jeez. I can. Yeah, that was the biggest stuff for me that didn't work.
Fair. Robert.
I think generally the decision they made at the end of season 2 of splitting up the characters, of having Jack, Kate, and Sawyer be off with the others and have that be kind of the A plot, with just sort of jumps back to the beach and the other characters for about the first third of the season. Interesting swing, just didn't work because we ended up with most of the show's narrative momentum coming from what was not the most interesting plot or the most interesting character combinations. And every time we jumped back to, Locke talking about going out to find and rescue them, something that didn't actually end up happening till 16 episodes in, it just felt like everybody else was just sitting on their hands while, we were supposed to be so invested in what was happening in the cages. It was an interesting idea, but the show is strongest when it can kind of move characters in and out of each other's stories and play around with what character combinations are the most fun. And they cut themselves off from that, and just there's a reason that the first third of the series is very sluggish for that. Also related, we are at the point where, like I mentioned, we have some great reveals about how, Locke ended up in a wheelchair and that Anthony Cooper as the original Sawyer. But a lot of the other flashback episodes are just reminders that we've run our course of just, another reminder that Jack had daddy issues and a bad marriage. Another reminder that Locke was kind of a born loser who just couldn't get over the idea that he needed to belong somewhere. And thankfully they realized that, and by the back half they'd fixed it. But yeah, just the flashbacks started to sputter out, and thankfully they figured out a way going forward to really revitalize that.
I agree with a lot of that, especially the point about splitting the characters up for so long, primarily because of Jack. Although this is an ensemble show, he is the closest thing we've got to a main character. So I'd have to go back and look in the notes, but he is gone for 15 episodes, 16, something like that.
Something like that.
Before he rejoins the beach party. And it gets really frustrating after a while. We hit a point where we realized, holy shit, in universe, 3 weeks or so have passed without Jack being there. And after the dynamic of the first 2 seasons relied so heavily on Jack leading the beach party, it's just really jarring for him to have been gone for so long. And then, of course, there's the Kate of it all. They really just did not know what the fuck to do with her this season. They advance her and Sawyer's love plot and then, like, dash it to pieces an episode later. It's so weird. Her flashbacks do not work. It's just frustrating, especially because we know Evangeline Lilly can be good. And I think the best of Kate is ahead of us, but what a frustrating time to be watching this. And I don't remember disliking her this much my first time through. And then, of course, as Robert mentioned, there's the quadrangle, because we got rid of Ana Lucia, but now we have to throw another party in there with Juliet. So is it going to be Jack and Juliet that are together forever, or Jack and Kate, or Kate and Sawyer, or Sawyer and Juliet? Who gives a shit? 3 seasons in, we're all over will they, won't they?
Lost really, at its best, found a way to tie its love stories into kind of the theme and momentum, but, like, the thing about Desmond and Penny is it's not just, oh, will they kiss or won't they? It's they've got all these obstacles to overcome. Like, in the face of, the drama that animates, Jen and Son, or that's just to have it like, oh, Kate just can't decide which boy to kiss, or, Jack can't decide if he likes Kate or Juliet more. When it really is just the characters not making their own damn decisions is when these stories get the most frustrating. Like, you need external obstacles, because when it's just the characters themselves being a-holes, it gets harder and harder to care.
Very well said. We're going to move on to the high points, and I'll pick up there. For me, after 2 seasons of Mr. Friendly generally just being a fucking nuisance, we are introduced to the character kidnapping a child off of a boat out of the arms of his father. Then in season 2, we see this character as like this otherworldly force out in the woods. And then we find out that he's not like pure evil. He's just sort of a dick, and he works with the others, and they have this whole facade. But he's still a kidnapper, and one game of catch with Jack isn't really enough to redeem him as a character. So seeing Sawyer make good on his promise at the end of season 1, when he tried to shoot them, finally execute Tom Friendly, very satisfying to see. Especially after all the buildup of I'm not a killer, and then, strangling Anthony Cooper to death, a.k.a. the original Tom Sawyer, to death, and like how much that ate him up inside. Seeing him just shoot Mr. Friendly at point blank range, dark moment for Sawyer, satisfying for the audience, I thought. And then we talked about it a lot in the last episode, and for the finale. Hurley's van rescue is epic. We Have to Go Back is epic. And once again, I'll just say the Juliet of it all. She owned every scene that she was in. She owned every episode that she was in. She really elevated the show, the drama, the writing. We finally got a good female character other than Son. So long Claire was defined by being the pregnant girl. Shannon was the pretty snobby girl. Ana Lucia was the tomboy.
Libby was the nice girl that liked Hurley.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're finally starting to get some well-rounded female characters on the show that are written like they're written by women, not men writing women. It's refreshing to see. Robert, why don't you go?
The quote I put in here was, I just want you to understand exactly how you're going to die. But really, anytime Jack got to go into that kind of ruthless hero mode, whether we talked about it in the finale of his, we're going to blow them all to hell, and his threat to Tom Friendly when he thinks they've murdered Jen, Son, and Bernard. Just, Jack was in limbo for a lot of this season, but I do want to highlight the moments where we got to see him kind of push to the edge in the sense of how committed he is to protecting his people and striking back when they've been threatened. Very strong stuff from Matthew Fox, and is going to set us up for a lot going forward. The scene where Anthony Cooper gets his comeuppance, just a brilliantly played scene by Josh Holloway, just slow simmering tension leading to that final act of murder. That's both incredibly cathartic for this guy that we hate, for this trauma we know Sawyer has carried for so many years, and yet still a very dark and heavy moment for that character. I said Hurley in the van, not just for the rescue, but also because of the episode of Trisha Tanaka, which is one of the last, like, let's just find a challenge and have fun overcoming it. Just that scene of Charlie and Hurley taking that daredevil drive down the hill while Jen and Sawyer cheer from the top. We don't get a lot of those moments in the remainder of the show, and it was just such a joyful moment in the experience of it. And my season MVP, which is not an easy one to pick out, or just season MVP, as came very close to Dominic Monaghan, who does do outstanding work. But I just got to give it to Yin Jin Kim, who, like, Sun does not get, outside of her own focus episodes, does not get as many big moments. But everyone she has, her face is magnificent. Like, just the way she finds to play all the layers of what she's feeling, whether it's, seeing her baby for the first time after being told that an on-island conception is a death sentence. Her reaction when Charlie tells her that he and Sawyer were the ones behind her abduction in season 2. Just what a treasure that actress is, and how fortunate this show was to have her. And I'll always be sad that she didn't get even more to do over the course of the 6 seasons.
All right. Well, sorry, Cara, go ahead.
That's okay. So I mean, really, it's a lot of what you guys said. Hurley, the van was just great. But for me, one of the highlights of this season was just how there were so many standout performances. Like the Sawyer killing. Anthony
Cooper.
Anthony Cooper, thank you. I mean, that alone gave me chills. Like, it just was such a good performance. And you've got, Juliet, she's amazing. Charlie, it just, all of these, wow, holy shit moments for me. And of course, one of the high points for me was, burying 2 people alive.
What a weird sentence to say, but, context is key, and I'm glad you got to see those people suffer.
Me too.
Which is also a weird sentence to say. Nikki and Paulo, rest in peace, eventually. All right, the low points of the season. I'll kick that off with the entirety of the episodes, Stranger in a Strange Land and I Do. Stranger in a Strange Land is on everyone's list of low points.
It's a rare show that has almost no defenders. I can't find anybody who, even if they don't hate it as much, nobody says it's not like bottom tier episode.
Yeah. The one I don't see mentioned very often is I Do. I hated this episode because it was just another instance of useless backstory for Kate. It was a filler episode. It was a waste of the greatness of Nathan Fillion. Overall, the whole thing just irrationally angered me. Right, it is, in my opinion, comparable to Stranger in a Strange Land, which famously is the episode that convinced the writers they needed to set an endpoint. And then there's Losing Mr. Echo. After just sort of being there for the first 4 episodes and not getting to do much, and then finally getting one of the best flashback episodes of the series and turning out one of the best performances of the series, Mr. Echo dies in the same episode, 5 episodes into the season. After how well he was built up in season 2, it's just tragic that we never got to see how that story was supposed to play out and what else that actor could have given us. It's what a disappointment. I loved the character. I was so sorry to see him go.
You just hate it because it's one of the few things that apparently was entirely out of the writer's hands, that the actor just made the decision he didn't want to continue with the show. And while there's dispute over the reasons, there's everything I've said is like the writers really tried to keep that character going for longer than just the season 2 and part of season 3.
Yeah. Well, I already mentioned Charlie, briefly returning to the jerk that we didn't like. But this season, they also do that with Sawyer once he gets back to the camp and tries to play sheriff, and it just doesn't work. And they drop it very quickly. He goes back. It's like its own weird little 2-episode arc where he's a jerk again and then he's lovable again. And I don't think they ever try this making him an asshole thing. I don't think they try it again, and it's good because we've already seen it. We've come to fall in love with the character, and then fall in love with him again. The one thing that none of us have really mentioned at all this episode, Locke. We all just sort of forgot about Locke, and I think that's one of the biggest misfires of this season is he was so integral to the first 2 seasons to sideline him for so much of this, and for ultimately a lot of what he does to be so inconsequential.
It's weird. I was thinking back on our conversation about the finale and realizing that, Locke is in 2 scenes across those 2 episodes. He's got his one in the ditch and his final attempt to stop them from contacting the outside. And I was going to be like, after all he's done this season, but now that you say it, I'm just like, he gets a couple of really good kind of standout episodes in like the back quarter of the season, and then Ben just sort of takes him out, and he's apart from that stretch of when he I guess Ender 22 when they meet Mikhail to when Ben shoots him, he feels like he's the Locke who's at the center of everything. But outside of that, he's just not doing much this season.
No, and then it's one of the biggest crimes this show committed. They're gonna rectify this in season 4, and then undo it for seasons 5 and 6. Sadly enough,
when we get there, I almost want us to just do a whole side episode talking about John Locke and how that character works out and just what his journey is, because it's a ride.
Very much so. Robert, go ahead and take us with one of your low points, which is hilarious to me.
So y'all had most of the big ones, so I just kind of put 2 kind of petty things in there, though I agree with most of what you said. Alex and her slingshot. Like, I think Tanya Raymond was in her early 20s or maybe late teens, so she's not that much older than the character, but she's too old to make a slingshot not look ridiculous. It's just like, they've got bolos. She could have an overhead sling. She could have a blowgun. Give her something that looks... they didn't want to put a gun in her hands. Fair enough. But,
They put one in her butt, though.
Well, it's lost. The guns grow in butts on this island.
Nice.
And then just kind of the overall feeling that the writers just did not like Evangeline Lilly this season. Again, I don't want to speculate on things, but just the number of plots that just seem to hinge on... especially as we get into that last half of the characters just not wanting to be around her, people not liking her, both of her love interests clearly being more interested in somebody else. I feel bad for her. That just cannot have been a fun filming experience. And I think she said in some interviews since then that she did have some frustrations with how she felt like her character was handled, and it's hard to blame her.
I didn't want to go with you.
I was just thinking that too.
Cara, the low points for you.
I mean, for me, it's everything that so far you guys have already said. I think probably 2 of the lowest, and I guess I don't mean low points of the show, but just lowest of my feelings was losing Mr. Echo and losing Charlie. Those just devastated me. But in terms of garbage, Nikki and Paolo, and the stupid flashbacks, Jack and Kate. They could have done better.
I pulled up the list of episodes this season because I feel like there are huge swaths of things that we didn't talk about much at all, even in the episodes that they were part of. Like, Saeed kind of gets sidelined this season. He doesn't have a whole lot to do other than go to other town to try to rescue Jack, and then even that doesn't really happen. He gets to beat up Mikhail. He gets to shoot at the dynamite. He gets a flashback episode. Not really much happened. Same with Claire. She's there. Her and Aaron are still around. That's about all you can say for them. Hurley, I mean, we did love his episode. Trisha Tanaka is dead. Of the, I don't want to call them B characters, but that's sort of what they became. He gets like the highlight of them.
I think it ties back to what I was saying earlier, that like when they decided that like the main thrust of the first half of the season was going to take place in an area away from most of our main characters, Like, we lost the ability to be like, okay, and now Jack will be spending time around Claire this week, and that's how Claire becomes, that you could do so easily in season 1 and 2, just to make it feel like anybody could be the main character on a given week. And now this is the one where it just felt the most like, okay, you've got our stars, and then just the kind of the ones who pop up now and then. And it's just, yeah, it's sad because we love these characters so much, and it's just frustrating to see them kind of sidelined. Overall, this is just the best and worst of this show are in season 3, and that's why I find it kind of fascinating. Like, all of the highs and lows of what Lost could be are all here.
Except for Nikki and Paolo. Highs, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
All right. Robert, what are you looking forward to in season 4 when we finally get there?
My recollection is that season 4 is just a mile a minute of plot television. Like, things just status quos get literally blown up over and over again. I know I've said that a lot, but like, they tease it at the end of season 3, and then it's just kind of constantly moving forward. That the race car picks up, and as much as I've enjoyed like episodes like Trisha Tanaka is Dead that just let the characters hang out and do nothing of consequence except let us get to know them a little better, I'm excited for just the constant build towards the confrontation with the freighter. The
constant build?
Hey, that is also on there. We have what is considered to be one of the series' best episodes, The Constant, coming up in season 4, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing again. We get the introduction of Martin Keamy, just in general, who is just in a show that loved its kind of complex, sympathetic villains who, you know, whose evil could be motivated by just tragedies and insecurities of their past. In Martin Keamy, we just have a straight-up bastard, a murderous bastard who comes to the island and gives us one of the great countdowns in the history of television. And so I'm looking forward to having that murderous psycho running around the island with his squad of killers.
You're not going to say what you called that and how you wrote it in our notes?
Keamy's Countdown, spelled with a K.
Love it.
I almost said Keamy's Killer Crew, but I didn't want to make that association. Because whatever else, I don't think he's a racist. And tying into that, I look forward to taking Ben from being the big bad that he is in season 3 to kind of having his moments of being an anti-hero now that season 4 is going to introduce a threat that unites Ben with some of our characters. Moments where we actually kind of cheer for him as he takes out even worse bad guys. And then following that, his journey back into being the villain again. So just the journey that Michael Emerson is going to go on with this character, I'm very excited to see.
Cara, what are you looking forward to in season 4?
Well, the whole thing, because I don't remember it. But what's funny is, like, you know, looking through y'all's notes and, like, I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember him. Oh, I remember him. Oh, wait, but, like, I could not tell you a single thing that I can remember about it aside from the people.
Fair. For me, I'm really looking forward to the new characters, particularly Miles, Lapidus, and Faraday. And also the continuing adventures of that one Beretta 92FS that we spent so much of the last episode talking about, which leads me to our special tracker that I looked up late last night, because this is just the sort of shit that I do at night when I can't go to sleep and my wife's already in bed. So somebody on Reddit went to the trouble of rewatching the first 3 seasons and tracking the various guns that come and go.
God bless the internet.
So, total, there are 20 guns in the Beach Survivors' possession. 5 of them are thanks to the U.S. Marshal. So, one of them was his personal gun. 4 of them were in the Halliburton case that they made such a big to-do about. Then there was the Beechcraft. Locke took a Glock 19 off of one of the men on board there. Then in the hatch, there were 14 guns. I'm sorry, there was like 12 guns, and then there were 1 or 2 others floating around, including the hunting rifle that Rousseau has. So, of all of them, the Marshal's main sidearm ended up with Sawyer. That's what he's carrying around, but it's empty. They don't have bullets for it anymore. Of the 4 guns that were inside the Halliburton case, 2 of them were taken by the others. 1 of them was taken by Ben. That's the one that ended up getting passed around to everyone else, the famous butt holster one. And then there was 1 that was destroyed when the hatch blew up. The Glock 19 that Locke took ended up getting taken by the others. Let me just count. Taken by others, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 guns.
So like half their guns were taken by the others.
And
yes.
on 3 separate occasions.
Yes.
Your breakdown of that is still one of the funniest things I had not realized.
Yep. One of the Russian model pistols that they got from the hatch ended up being destroyed in it, and one of them got taken by Desmond. According to this list, I don't know what happened to it. And then there's the Remington rifle that Rousseau has that ends up with the survivors. And then there's a Winchester 1912 that ends up destroyed in the hatch. So only 3 of those 20 guns are still around by the end of the season. And one of them doesn't have any bullets.
Well,
I'm sorry, 4.
I guess it's going to be a very quiet and reflective season 4 without any gun battles, explosions, or shooting deaths.
Yep, none whatsoever. All right, well, that is going to wrap us up. So we have one more episode to release before we take our big break. That is going to be our Lost Adjacent Actor movie, and we're going to watch the 2007 classic Smokin' Aces because it features 2 Lost alumni, Matthew Shepard, 3? That's right.
Kevin Durant is in there too.
Yep, Kevin Durant, Matthew Fox. I almost said Matthew Shepard. No, Matthew Fox. And Richard Alpert himself. Help me with the name.
Nestor Carbonell.
Nestor Carbonell. There we go. Thank you. So we're going to watch that. That's going to release the last week of the month. So the week of the 23rd. Be on the lookout for that. And then, unfortunately, we won't be back to start season 4 until some point in September. So just keep a watch on your podcast feeds for when we return. I'd love to be able to give you a solid date, but who the hell knows? In the meantime, Robert, what's either a place that people can follow you online or something that you think they should be reading, watching, playing, doing in the meantime while we're on break?
Once we've done finished recording this, I'm going to go out with my wife to see Mission Impossible Final Reckoning in the theaters. So I'm just going to generally encourage people, go see a movie in a theater. Just support cinema, and please try to support, good films.
I love that advice. That is perfect. Thank you, Robert. Cara, a place that people can follow you online or a recommendation for what they can do in the meantime before we come back?
Well, if they basically give up their lives, they could go on the 9-month tour through the Dark Tower and its ancillary books like we did.
Yeah, that was we started in November of 2023 and we finished in August of 24.
How many books total was that?
18, I think.
Is something. And we even cut out, because I cut out the stand because I'd already just read it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was somewhere 18, 20 books.
We're just going to brush through that 1,000-page thing again?
I mean, I think it's 27 hours in audiobook or something like that. It was a long.
That sounds low.
You might be right. It might be 40 hours. I don't.
Yeah, I want to say that sounds right. But anyway, you can follow me on Instagram if you want at DB Hensley. But you know what? I'm gonna jump on what Robert said, and I'm also gonna expand on it. Support the arts. Go to the movies. Go to plays. Go to see theater. Go to concerts. Go to libraries. Read some fucking books. Listen to some fucking books. Man. At a time when people are really, I'm going to go on a soapbox for 5 seconds, just indulge me. At a time when people are embracing artificial intelligence, go out there and work on some real intelligence. Take in the humanities, please. So, with that said, if you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show, or if you've enjoyed any of the previous shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.